Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the realities of the Catholic Church around the world, especially in those areas where she struggles to share her message as a result of persecution, discrimination, or simply difficult circumstances. Today we will be looking at the largest landlocked country in South America, Bolivia. It is bordered by Brazil, Paraguay, Peru, Argentina, and Chile. It is a multi-ethnic state with a population of more than 11 million people, almost 93% of which are Christian. The predominant language is Spanish, but there are 36 indigenous languages which also hold official status. Quechua, Guarani and Aymara are the most commonly spoken. Let's take a look at the rich diversity of this South American country.
The state of Bolivia is located in the center of South America. With its 9 million inhabitants, it is a country characterized by great contrasts. Not only the diversity of its landscapes, but also the multicultural face of its population. Bolivia's rich history is internationally recognized through its extensive array of UN-declared World Heritage Sites. Among them we find the city of Potosi, the historical city of Sucre, the Jesuit missions of Chiquitos, and the Tiahuanaco, the spiritual and political center of one of the ancient Aboriginal cultures of the region. Prior to the colonization in the 16th century, the peoples inhabiting the territory under the predominantly Inca Empire included the Aymara, Chiquitana, and Quechua tribes. With the arrival of the Spanish, the once proud population was reduced to slavery and served as labor to extract silver from the productive mines of Potosi, which served to create one of the most prosperous and populated centers of the Spanish Empire. The country gained its independence in 1825, taking the name of the military and political leader Simón Bolívar, who liberated and created the sovereign state independent of Spanish rule. As the boundaries of Bolivia's territory changed over the years, so too its political regimes, characterized by revolutions, military coups, and civil wars. The National Revolution of 1953 began a process of modernization and economic growth that changed the course of the country. This period of stability ended, however, with a dramatic fall in world prices for minerals extracted in the region. This economic instability resulted in political turmoil, a series of coups d'etat replacing different military leaders. Bolivia experienced a revival in 1982 with a turn to democracy. To strengthen the economy and reduce inflation, successive governments applied continuous measures of austerity and labor reforms, which generated recurrent social upheaval. In 2006, the first indigenous president of the country, the charismatic Evo Morales, came to power. And with it, the country's policy became characterized by a left-wing implementation of nationalist and indigenous policies. Although the nationalization of Bolivia's natural resources has resulted in income growth, propelling Bolivia today to one of the region's economic leaders, the country still faces major challenges related to social inequality, poverty, violence, and drug trafficking.
What a rich history and culture, though fraught with great suffering. We're going to see how the Catholic Church in Bolivia seeks to meet some of the challenges we've heard about. But first, we're going to take a look at a challenge the Church herself is facing.
Church-state tensions are also increasing. Although nearly 4 out of 5 Bolivians are Catholic, with the swearing-in of Evo Morales in 2006, the Bible and cross were removed from the presidential palace, and Andean religious rituals replaced Catholic rites at state ceremonies. A watershed moment was the inauguration of the new constitution in 2009, which made the historically Catholic country a secular state. The secular government, inspired by a pre-Christian Andean folklore and a rejection of Western Christian culture, seeks to replace the church with the state as the center of Bolivian life. Official communication paints the church as a present-day symbol of Bolivia's bitter colonization history, and so-called decolonization legislation has increased church taxation, replaced Catholic religion classes with general religion and spirituality courses, mandated that all religious teachers be formed in state programs, as well as a failed effort to stop Catholic religious education in church-run schools. The church in Bolivia is also struggling with a decline in vocations and the reduced number of young people opting for consecrated life. Although Bolivia has a fairly large group of priests, it is not enough to serve the population and continues to depend on help from missionaries from the Universal Church. Do not be afraid to help each other. Fight to get ahead, Pope Francis said during his visit to Bolivia in 2015. Dialogue and consensus are the tools that the pontiff proposes to work together, although it is not always an easy path.
Unfortunately, there are many conflicts in our country, many confrontations. In Bolivia, there is practically no dialogue, and I think the Lord is telling us that this is not the way. He asks us to forget old grudges, to leave also the confrontation mentality that the strongest is the winner. He invites us to seek together in an open and sincere dialogue the good of all people, not only for a few, the empowered ones.
Being a priest in a country of such diversity and contrasts brings practical challenges as well as great marvels. On being ordained a bishop, Monsignor Percy Galvan was moved from Quechua diocese to one that is primarily Aymara, a new language, new customs, and a dramatically higher altitude. Bishop Percy shares his experience.
Bien, en principio, la religiosidad, el amor de la gente a Dios, sus festividades, siempre están en torno a los santos, a los patronos del lugar, a la Virgen María, a Jesucristo. Yo creo que esa religiosidad popular la compartimos en todo el país de Bolivia y esa será una de nuestras principales fortalezas para enfrentar la evangelización. Yo procedo de la cultura quechua y ahora debo trabajar en esta otra región que es propiamente, mayoritariamente de cultura aymara. Y lógicamente para nosotros que no somos de aquella cultura es un gran desafío. Gracias a Dios yo hablo el quechua y aun cuando no son muy semejantes me da la posibilidad de introducirme en el aymara, ¿no? Y allá hay alturas desde los 5.800 metros hasta los 4.000 y sin embargo, como le digo, estamos ahí no tan fijados en ese problema, sino más en todo lo que significa el cariño, el amor, la retribución, la alegría de la gente, de ver a su obispo que confirma, que convoca a la gente, a su párroco. Sin duda alguna la religiosidad está marcada en el corazón de la gente y eso lo debemos a tantos hombres y mujeres que han pasado por aquellas regiones, por aquellos lugares. Quién sabe, ¿no? Con las comodidades que nosotros ahora accedemos, ¿no? Nosotros llegamos a través de un vehículo, en cambio ellos han llegado a pie, han llegado a caballo y han llegado con esa pasión que hasta ahora han dejado las huellas del Evangelio de Jesucristo en aquellas hermosas regiones.
Bolivia is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world and has enormous mineral wealth. Despite this abundance, it is one of the poorest countries in Latin America. One of the ways that the Catholic Church is recognized and often why it is welcome, is because of the work it does with the poor and with the vulnerable in society.
La Iglesia está siempre atenta a todos los sectores, como el Papa Francisco dice, despreciados, marginados, y parece que estamos mejorando. Hay mejores caminos, hay mejores escuelas y hay muchas nuevas construcciones, pero hay mucha pobreza todavía. Lo que nos indica son los comedores populares. Cada rato más gente viene para pedir pan de cada día, y agradecemos profundamente a ACN que nos está colaborando justamente en estas obras para disminuir y atender a los pobres, para estar junto con ellos.
Aquí vienen toda la gente que no tiene recursos para poder tener comidita, y entonces vienen aquí a servirse un plato de comida. Nuestra madre fundadora ha organizado el comedor que se llama la olla del pobre. Pueden entrar el que pasa, no decimos usted no es de aquí. Vienen hasta 200. Al entrar les hacemos rezar y después hacemos todo lo posible para que ellos se vayan contentos y queden satisfechos. Le vamos a dar gracias al Señor porque ha muerto por nosotros para librarnos del pecado, ¿no? En el nombre del Padre, del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo. Amén. Padre.
El compromiso por los pobres es el compromiso de defender la imagen de Dios en los hermanos. Muchas veces una imagen ultrajada, pisoteada, donde no pueden vivir. Por lo tanto, comprometernos por el pobre es comprometernos por la imagen de Dios y por la presencia misma de Cristo.
Economic difficulties abound, and opportunities for training and employment remain scarce. In this context, with its sight fixed on hope and charity, the local church dedicates itself to serving children in the communities that surround this isolated town. Let's take a look.
The boarding schools were created in response to a need of the population. Many people in the countryside do not have the possibility of owning a townhouse, and thereby access to better education.
It is a complex reality. These are children who come from fairly dysfunctional families, children that do not receive much support from their parents. If there were no boarding school, they would leave them to work in their field, taking care of the goats or taking care of the cowshed, or doing other things except studying.
Mainly help them here with their education. The things that one should learn at home. We teach them to be clean, to be neat, to study, and we sometimes even also work in the garden. Of course, it is at first hard for them, especially those who do not speak Spanish. They first learn Spanish here, and then they adapt to the environment. It is difficult for them, but most are content to have been given the opportunity to study and are happy here. They help us do our difficult homework. And if we do not have homework, they give us other things to do to keep us learning. We reinforce their reading and writing abilities here, which are very poor, as well as mathematics and Spanish, because language difficulties inhibit understanding. So we support them a lot in this area to improve their learning skills.
On many occasions, children who have already left come back to express their gratitude for the help they had received in the boarding school. They are grateful, very grateful, even for the occasional scolding. They appreciate all the help they received at the boarding school.
First, I did not want to stay. Then I got used to it. Now I don't want to leave.
We try to help them develop values that will encourage them to love their faith. In turn, they learn to live by them as the Church asks of us. They welcome this formation. We also see to it that they are baptized and receive all the sacraments.
As of today, we have 15 boarding schools. We also have healthcare centers and, whenever possible, hospitals. When we go out to the communities, we try to help with medicines, sometimes with the food that we bring. But yes, we are limited by our financial resources, because unfortunately, we do not receive any support from the government.
The call to follow Christ sends us out to the edges of society, to those lonely, forgotten, and isolated. The Archbishop of Sucre, Most Reverend Jesus Juarez Párraga, tells us about reaching out to young people who have ended up in prison.
Pope Francis said, "If we want to help change history and promote real development, we need to hear the cry of the poor and commit ourselves to ending their marginalization." The Bolivian Church, having heard the Holy Father's call, has wholeheartedly adopted this mission, offering the renewing power of God's gospel to transform the region's hardest realities in a concrete way.
Los sacerdotes, gracias a Dios, se acercan a la población.
The priest, thank God, go out to the people to learn about their needs, and through different projects, tend to these people's basic needs.
Creemos que
We believe that we don't have to do so many missions, but to be missionaries. I believe that is what our young people need. That is what we have to do, to use Jesus of Nazareth's method in our pastoral work with young people.
¿Cómo están? Bien. ¿Quién les visita? Nuestro papá. ¿Y qué se llama su papá? ¿Qué? Muy fuerte.
estos jóvenes han perdido la libertad.
These young men have lost their freedom and have ended up in prison. They were caught working as what we call mules, which means carrying drugs.
Uy, este paso me van a pedir confesión, muy serios están.
I learned many things here. Father Pedro came here and taught us a lot. I didn't even know how to pray the rosary. Father Pedro taught me. They talked to me like the catechist. Honestly, the life that each of us have is to learn from the mistakes that we have made and not to fall again. And if we fall, to get up.
Pero yo pienso que
I remember what St. John Bosco said one day. If this young man had been accompanied, supported, had had a father, a friend, what happened to him might not have happened to him.
Y la bendición de Dios Todopoderoso, Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo, descienda sobre ustedes y les acompañe ahora y siempre.
I do not have a dad. When I was born, he was almost never with me. He was always on a trip. And so I just grew up with my mother. But Father Pedro and the Reverend taught me what a father is like. They gave me good advice. When I needed advice or something, they were always there for me. When they came, I could talk to them about my problems. And they always told me what to do, and things like that.
Este es el desafío que nos dio.
This is the challenge that Jesus of Nazareth, resurrected, left us. We find it in Luke chapter 24. Jesus stands in their midst, listens to them, walks by their side, and once he has heard their problems, he quotes the scriptures, God's promise, the joy of also being resurrected like him. And so, accompanied, they recognized him in the breaking of the bread.
Economic needs have forced many Bolivians to migrate. Some move within the country from poorer rural areas to the larger towns and cities in search of work. Many others emigrate to neighboring countries such as Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. Increasingly, there are many Bolivians in the United States and in Europe. At Pisiga, the border crossing from Bolivia to Chile, the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent of Paul work hard to give respite to those who have left home and are making long and difficult journeys, whether they are leaving Bolivia or arriving.
En estos últimos tiempos, el trabajo migratorio y la realidad de nuestros hermanos migrantes es muy dolorosa.
Bueno, mi nombre es Esther, tengo 44 años, tengo 4 hijos, al cual dependen de mí. Yo soy madre y padre para ellos y pues ando en la lucha por ellos. Todo lo que hago es por mis hijos.
Generalmente el 95% son colombianos. Cuando les escucho y me dicen que llevan 8 días sin conocer una cama y sin comer, pues eso impacta mucho.
Uno toma un bus hacia la frontera de Ecuador. De Ecuador vamos a Perú. De Perú vamos al desaguadero. Es que todos buscamos como una mejoría económica, tanto como para mí y para mis familiares. Actualmente en Colombia no la está y puede ser que en Chile sí.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Sí, no sé si estás aquí. ¿Ahorita ha pasado algo en el camino?
Cuando ellos llegan a casa, llegan muertos de frío y la altura, que generalmente hace sus estragos en ellos, a veces se sienten morir porque la altura es muy desconcertante, ¿no?
Nosotros estamos aquí acogidos por las monjas, porque allá no, o sea, para ponerle un sello a un colombiano, dicen que ningún colombiano pasa para allá, que esto y lo otro.
Entonces, lo primero que hacemos es darles un mate caliente. Y una vez que tienen ya un poco más de calor, pues enseguida a ofrecerles la comida, mostrarles dónde van a descansar, hacerles la entrevista para saber cuál es la realidad.
Porque no saben a quién le estén abriendo su puerta y de repente ya le abren, le hacen 2 o 3 preguntas y para adentro. ¿Entiendes? Y ahí mismo lo van ubicando en una cama y le van ofreciendo comida, abrigo, y eso es una bendición, de verdad que es una bendición esta mujer.
Bueno, ellos mismos dicen, hermana, este es un hotel de lujo para nosotros. Ahora sí, ellos pueden bañarse, pueden lavar su ropa, cosa que no podían hacer. Y acá también tenemos que darles mucho valor. Da pena cuando los colombianos de color se sienten rechazados, no por su raza, como que fueran personas de segunda categoría. Sueño con que algún día eso desaparezca. La policía chilena, que es el PDI, muchas veces los trata mal. Pero mira, contra todo pronóstico les acompañamos, porque ellos también dicen, hermana, tu presencia nos da fortaleza. Vieras, hermanito, al otro lado. Es de llorar, ni ellos mismos se lo creen. Siendo hombres se quiebran en llanto, ¿no? Ese es nuestro trabajo en la frontera.
The Catholic Church is playing a vital role in serving the Bolivian people. But what does it mean to be called as a priest to minister to his flock? Let's hear some of these Bolivian seminarians.
Hay mucha gente que busca a Dios y hay muy pocos sacerdotes. Cada vez la gente busca más y más y esa hambre de Dios no puede ser saciada. Entonces yo me dije en un momento de mi vida, puedes hacer algo. Puedes llevar a Dios a su presencia. Puedes hacerte instrumento de Él y entregar tu vida y ser feliz además. La felicidad es el punto fundamental en esta entrega. Uno es feliz y puede hacer a los demás felices.
Yo me imagino ser un sacerdote de parroquia, con mucha oración, con mucho sacramento y con mucha cercanía hacia la gente.
Yo me imagino llevándoles a Jesucristo y la palabra a esas personas que sienten realmente que necesitan de Dios.
Me gustaría que los jóvenes vengan a las misas, conozcan a Jesús, que las familias enteras que vengan a la misa. Mi vocación es ser santo.
Mi vocación es servir.
Mi vocación es el Señor.
Listening to these young men gives us a strong sense of hope for the work of the Church in this wonderful South American country. Thanks to the love and commitment of men and women serving the Lord and their brothers and sisters, the Bolivian society will continue to be transformed by the gospel values. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in another series of Where God Weeps in Depth. If you want to know more about the work that the Church is doing in Bolivia, please have a look at the contact information at the end of this program. Thank you, and God bless.